In the history of ancient Israel, few figures stand out as brightly as King Solomon, the son of David, the builder of the first great temple, and a ruler whose wisdom, wealth, and influence became legendary. His story is one of extraordinary potential, immense achievement, and ultimately a warning about the dangers of excess and divided loyalty. Today we explore the full life of Solomon, a man whose legacy continues to shape culture, religion, and history thousands of years later. The story of Solomon begins long before he becomes king. He was born in Jerusalem during the reign of his father, King David. Solomon's mother was Bathsheba, and although he was not the oldest among David's sons, he would eventually inherit the throne. Even as a child, Solomon was known for his quiet, thoughtful nature. The biblical narrative describes him as beloved by God, and his very name, derived from shalom, carries the meaning of peace. When David reached old age, political tension emerged among his sons. Different heirs attempted to claim power, and for a moment it seemed the kingdom would fracture into chaos. But David acted decisively. Guided by the prophet Nathan and Bathsheba, he declared Solomon the rightful king. The young heir was anointed publicly, solidifying his legitimacy before the people of Israel. With David's death soon after, Solomon inherited not only the throne, but the weight of leading a rapidly growing kingdom. One of the defining moments of Solomon's early reign occurred at Gibeon. There, he offered sacrifices and sought guidance from God. In a dream, God appeared to him and offered an extraordinary choice. Solomon could ask for anything: wealth, power, or long life. But instead of requesting personal gain, Solomon asked for an understanding mind, the ability to judge his people wisely, and a heart capable of discerning between good and evil. This humble request pleased God, who not only granted him unparalleled wisdom, but also promised him wealth, honor, and influence beyond any king of his time. Soon after, that wisdom was put to the test. One of the most famous stories in Scripture tells of two women who came before Solomon, both claiming to be the mother of the same infant child. With no witnesses and no clear evidence, the case seemed impossible to decide. But Solomon proposed a shocking solution. He suggested the child be divided so that each woman would receive half. In that moment, the true mother cried out, begging the king to spare the child's life and give him to the other woman. This revealed the truth to Solomon, and his judgment became known across Israel. The people recognized that their new king possessed a rare and divine wisdom. Under Solomon's leadership, Israel entered its golden age. His administration was highly organized, with appointed officials, regional governors, and a thriving system of trade. Through alliances, especially his marriage to the daughter of the Pharaoh of Egypt, Solomon strengthened Israel's position among neighboring nations. These relationships brought peace and economic growth, allowing the nation to flourish. Perhaps Solomon's greatest achievement was the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem, often called Solomon's Temple. This monumental project fulfilled a dream that had begun with his father David. Built of cedar, gold, and stone, the temple became the central place of worship for Israel. It represented national identity, divine presence, and unity among the tribes. The craftsmanship was exquisite, with detailed carvings, massive pillars, and an inner sanctuary designed to house the Ark of the Covenant. Building the temple took years and required tens of thousands of laborers. The dedication ceremony was one of the most significant events in the nation's history. When the Ark was placed inside, a cloud filled the sanctuary, symbolizing the presence of God. Solomon prayed a long, heartfelt dedication, asking that God would hear the prayers of the people who worshiped there. The temple became not only a religious center but also a symbol of Israel's strength and prosperity. Solomon's wealth became legendary. The biblical accounts describe him as receiving enormous amounts of gold each year, so much that silver was considered of little value in his kingdom. He expanded trade routes by land and sea, partnering with craftsmen, merchants, and foreign leaders. His palace complex was enormous, taking even longer to build than the temple. Solomon's court grew in splendor, filled with officials, musicians, scholars, and people from distant lands who came to learn from him. Among those visitors was the Queen of Sheba, a ruler from a wealthy kingdom far to the south, possibly in modern-day Ethiopia or Yemen. Hearing of Solomon's wisdom, she journeyed with a grand caravan of spices, gold, and precious stones. When she arrived, she tested Solomon with hard questions, but his responses impressed her deeply. Seeing the splendor of his palace, the organization of his officials, and the offerings made at the temple, she declared that not even half of his greatness had been reported to her. Their meeting symbolizes Solomon's international influence and the far reach of Israel's prosperity. In addition to his political and economic achievements, Solomon was also a writer and thinker. Tradition credits him with composing many of the proverbs in the Hebrew scriptures, as well as poetic and philosophical works such as Ecclesiastes and the Song of Songs. These writings explore themes of wisdom, human purpose, love, and the temporary nature of life. They reveal a reflective and complex ruler, one who pondered the deeper meaning of existence.
In addition to his political and economic achievements, Solomon was also a writer and thinker. Tradition credits him with composing many of the proverbs in the Hebrew scriptures, as well as poetic and philosophical works such as Ecclesiastes and the Song of Songs. These writings explore themes of wisdom, human purpose, love, and the temporary nature of life. They reveal a reflective and complex ruler, one who pondered the deeper meaning of existence. But despite Solomon's extraordinary achievements, his later years were marked by decline. The wealth, power, and foreign alliances that had once strengthened his kingdom eventually led him astray. Solomon took many wives from other nations, and these marriages brought foreign customs and idols into the land. Over time, Solomon built altars for these deities and allowed practices that conflicted with Israel's covenant. This turning away had serious consequences. The unity Solomon had fostered began to weaken. Internal tensions grew, prophets warned of judgment, and God revealed that after Solomon's death, the kingdom would be divided. Although Solomon remained king until the end of his life, the seeds of division had been planted, and the golden age he brought to Israel did not last beyond his reign. Solomon died after ruling for 40 years, leaving behind a nation that had reached unprecedented heights. His legacy is complicated, marked by remarkable wisdom and devastating weakness. Yet his impact remains undeniable. His temple stood for centuries as a center of worship, and his writings continue to influence faith and philosophy around the world. The life of Solomon reminds us that greatness requires more than talent, wealth, or intelligence. It requires humility, discipline, and a heart anchored in purpose. His story stands as both a shining example of what humans can achieve and a warning of what can happen when one drifts away from the foundations that support wisdom and integrity. This is the life of King Solomon, Israel's wisest ruler, a builder of great works, a seeker of understanding, and a man whose rise and fall continue to speak to us across thousands of years.